Yo, Mikey, check out what I found at the garage sale, Brandon exclaimed, holding up an old, dusty NES cartridge. The label read Super Mario Brothers in faded letters, the edges worn with age. His friend Mike looked up from the couch, curiosity lighting up his eyes. Is that the original? That's right, my guy. Can you believe it? It was only $5. Brandon wiped the dust off on his shirt, and then he blew into the cartridge before sliding it into his retro gaming setup. His TV screen, it flickered to life, filling the room with that familiar jingle of the Nintendo startup screen. Oh boy, I cannot wait to show you those secret warp zones, my dude. This game is awesome. The boys settled in, controllers in hand, and Brandon booted up the game. The Mushroom Kingdom unfolded before them in glorious 8-bit splendor, the nostalgia thick as pea soup. They spent hours jumping on Goombas and dodging fireballs, the laughter and shouts of victory echoing through the apartment. It was the perfect throwback to their childhood. As they approached Bowser's castle, Brandon felt a strange tingle in the air, like the buzz of static electricity. The screen flickered, and for a moment, it seemed as if Mario's pixelated eyes met Brandon's. Mike barely had time to react before the game froze, the music cutting out abruptly. The room, it fell silent, save for the soft hum of the TV. What the hell? Brandon murmured, his thumb hovering over the reset button. But before he could press it, the screen flashed again, and Mario's iconic character, he turned to face them with a smile twisting and spreading across his digital features.
You're next.
The game announced in a deep, unnatural voice that sent shivers down their spines. The game resumed, but the castle walls were now pulsing with an eerie red light. The music had changed too, the cheery tune now replaced by a sinister melody that echoed throughout the room. The graphics grew more menacing. The bricks of the castle wall began shifting and moving, like they were living entities. Brandon's heart pounded as they reached the final boss fight. Bowser roared, and without warning, the screen flickered once more. This time, instead of the usual battle, the screen shifted to show Mario stepping through the television screen. The plumber's digital form grew larger, his eyes burning with a fiery intensity that seemed to pierce the very fabric of reality itself. "You think you can kill me?" the demonic Mario taunted, his voice echoing in their ears. Mike stumbled back, dropping his controller. What the? Panic surged through Brandon's veins. He bolted to his feet, knocking over his chair, and sprinted to the kitchen. Hands trembling as he pulled open the drawer, he locked eyes on the handgun he kept for emergencies. This had to be some sort of prank, some kind of messed up glitch. But as he heard the sound of digital footsteps approaching, the cold metal of the gun in his hand felt all too real. He turned, pointing the weapon at the advancing figure. "Get back!" he yelled, his voice shaking. Mario took another step, his smile twisted into a snarl. "You think you can stop me?" He raised a glowing fist. Without hesitation, Brandon pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang through the apartment, and for a terrifying moment, everything was still. But then, the figure before him, it grew larger, more terrifying. The bullet had passed right through the digital monstrosity, embedding itself in the wall behind. "You're a part of the game now," the demonic voice whispered, the room growing colder by the second. "And you can never leave." Brandon's heart raced as he took aim again, firing wildly at the advancing digital monstrosity. Each shot seemed to only fuel the creature's power, the walls of the room crackling and distorting around them as if the very fabric of reality itself was being torn apart by the game's malevolent influence. The bullets ricocheted off the floor, sending sparks flying and leaving smoldering craters in their wake. Mike had backed away. His eyes were wide with horror, and he was absolutely unable to find his voice. But Brandon, what are we gonna do? He stuttered. And the digital demon, it took another step forward. It was now standing in the doorway between the living room and the kitchen. The air grew thick with the scent of burning plastic, and the once familiar sounds of the game, they had been replaced by a cacophony of unsettling digital noises, like the cries of 1,000 trapped souls. "We have to get out of here," Brandon said through gritted teeth, his voice oddly steady despite the fear gripping him. "Now!" He took a deep breath and set his jaw, his eyes never leaving the monstrous version of his childhood hero. "I'm going to reset the game console, and when I do, Mikey, you need to run." Mike nodded, his eyes darting to the floor, calculating their escape route. As Brandon took aim at the power strip, his hand hovering over the switch, the creature grew bolder. "You cannot escape me," it hissed, its voice now a chorus of tortured cries. But in one swift motion, Brandon fired at the power strip, shattering the plastic and sending a shower of sparks flying across the floor. The TV, it flickered off, and the demonic figure vanished in a burst of static. The entire room fell dark, save for the flickering of emergency lights that kicked in, and they cast an eerie shadow over the smoke-filled room. The duo bolted out the door, never looking back, their footsteps echoing down that hallway. But the apartment complex was eerily quiet. It was as if the world had stopped to watch their terrifying ordeal. But they didn't stop running. Not until they were outside, gulping in lungfuls of fresh air. The cool evening breeze washing over them is a stark contrast to the hellish scene they had just escaped. Panting, Brandon turned to Mike. The gravity of this situation was finally setting in. "What the hell was that?" Mike's face was ashen. "I don't know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But we're not going back in there. Right, Brandon?" The silence between them, it was heavy with unspoken fear. These two men had stumbled into something far beyond their understanding. It was a nightmare born of pixels and nostalgia. And as they stood there, the distant sound of the TV turning on echoed through the apartment complex, and the game's eerie theme music played once more, louder than ever. The digital world, it had bled into their reality, and it wasn't finished with them yet. "We gotta find a way to stop this," Brandon said, his voice now firm with determination. And Mike nodded in agreement, the gravity of their situation beginning to set in. They couldn't leave it like this. That game had to be destroyed before it could claim any more victims. So they re-entered the apartment, the gun still clutched tightly in Brandon's hand. The living room, it was a mess, with a bullet-riddled wall and a smoking power strip. But that game, it continued to play on the screen, and the demonic Mario, he was nowhere to be seen. Brandon approached the TV, and his eyes narrowed in concentration. He had to find a way to end this, to banish the creature back to the hellish game world from whence it came. He ripped the cartridge out of the console, the screen flickering briefly before the game's hold on the world began to weaken. But the moment of relief, it was short-lived as the wallpaper began to ripple and distort, and the floorboards beneath them began to groan. It was as if the game was fighting back, refusing to let go. "The cartridge," Mike said, his voice urgent. "We need to break it." Dropping the cartridge, the two hurried back into the kitchen. Those digital whispers of the game, they followed them like a malevolent shadow. Rifling through a drawer, Brandon grabbed a hammer, and together the two returned to the living room, ready to face whatever horrors this game had in store for them. The cartridge still lay on the floor, and it was the source of this disturbance. And as Brandon raised the hammer, he hesitated. He could feel the power of the game pushing back, and it was trying to keep its grip on this reality. But he broke through that hesitation, and with a mighty swing, he brought the hammer down on the cartridge. The plastic shattered, and with it, the wallpaper snapped back into place, and the floor stilled. The TV screen went black, and the music cut off mid-note. The room, it felt normal again. The air was no longer thick with the scent of burning plastic or fear. They had won this round. But the question lingered. What other dark secrets were hidden within this game? Epilogue. Brandon's stoner friend Cameron, who had overheard the events taking place, just remembered that his drug dealer had gotten him some new product called Fire Flower. And being a Mario expert, he knew that it could only mean one thing: that it was possible for him to gain powers exclusive to the game.
"Brandon, I'm gonna save ya. Let me just heat up this flour real quick."
Cameron grabbed the bag of flour and ate all 10 ounces of it. He ran out the door and sprinted headfirst into the door of the next door neighbor on his way to save the day.
"I can feel the power. It's flowing through me. Wait, where is his apartment? Oh God, I think I might have taken too much."
As Cameron was saying this, Mario and Brandon, they were in a standoff, and Brandon was formulating a strategy when suddenly the door burst open and Cameron came in screaming. But for whatever reason, he sprinted between Demon Mario and Brandon, and I mean in a full sprint, out onto the balcony. He then smashed headfirst over the railing, screamed as he fell 8 stories, and that was followed by a loud thud and a car alarm blaring. Mario and Brandon looked away from the balcony back at each other, and for 1 minute said nothing. But then the tension broke, and the two burst out laughing. In between the chokes of laughter, Mario simply stated, "I just needed one a soul to meet my quota, so I will take that guy, whoever the hell he was. I will be going now. You take care of Brandon." And they all lived happily ever after. Except for Cameron, as Cameron was dead. The end. And Cameron didn't stand a chance. That was a lot of fun to do this story. I hope you guys liked all of the images that I put into it. I'm not going to do that every time. You have no idea how tedious it was to actually get everything to look just right. This video would have otherwise come out several days ago. So I really hope that you enjoyed it. Consider that a treat. I'll do that every once in a while. Ancient Baseball, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to get started on your Mario series. This first one was really funny, so I thought I'd do it right up front. So congratulations, you're the first person to have a second story done on my channel. I would also like to thank my old college buddy Shart for allowing me to use his face in this video. So he's the one who played Brandon, let's just say. So if you guys liked what I did with this and you'd like to see more, please don't be shy. like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm not going to bother you. I just want to help get these wonderful stories out to y'all. So with that, thank you guys and have a nice night. Bye-bye.
Uncle Mac, let me, I want to